Well, a high-ranking Air Force general says a war between the U.S. and China is imminent. In a memo first obtained by NBC News, General Michael Minahan told his troops that a war over Taiwan would be likely in 2025 and that they need to start preparing. Let's bring in Jamil Jaffer, the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Jamil, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start by looking at some of that memo from the general right now. He says, quote, "I hope I am wrong. My gut tells me we will fight in 2025. Xi secured his third term and set his war council in October of 2022. Taiwan's presidential elections are in 2024 and will offer Xi a reason. And United States presidential elections are in 2024 and will offer Xi a distracted America. Xi's team, reason, and opportunity are all aligned for 2025. What is your sense of this gut feeling? How realistic is this fear?
Look, I think General Minahan makes a great point. I think that there's a very real risk the Chinese take on Taiwan now at a time when they don't believe the U.S. is ready to defend Taiwan, is interested in defending Taiwan. And frankly, we're just simply not postured to do it if we want to do so. I think the Chinese today are not waiting to see what the U.S. might do. I think that they're simply waiting to be prepared to take action so they can crush any opposition in a short amount of time and prevent us from getting there, even if we wanted to, which I don't think they believe we do.
What would an invasion of Taiwan mean for the U.S.?
Well, obviously, we depend on Taiwan for a significant amount of resources, including in particular semiconductor chips. But more importantly, what it signals to the world is that American allies aren't safe. And it's a real challenge because, you see what's happening in Ukraine. You see the 7,000 civilians dead, the 400 children have been killed. Even after the U.S. has poured a tremendous amount of weaponry in, we didn't do enough ahead of time to stave off the Russian invasion. We didn't give the Ukrainians the tools what they needed to actually stop this war or win this war 6 months ago. Now we're putting tanks in. That's a good thing, but it may be a little too late. And so the question becomes in Taiwan, how can we get ahead of that, knowing what General Minahan correctly points out, he's a very real threat to Taiwan, whether that's 2025 or 2028. There's no doubt the Chinese are coming after that island, unfortunately.
Yeah, President Joe Biden has said that the U.S. would help Taiwan if China attacked. Does that mean U.S. boots on the ground? Should it mean U.S. boots on the ground?
It's an interesting question, Natasha, because President Biden has been very strident in his statements, essentially signaling that the U.S. might put boots on the ground. But as soon as he does that, within minutes, you have folks from the White House come out, including his national security advisor, and say, well, what the president really meant was that we'll supply with the Taiwanese the weapons they need to defend themselves. Those two are very different things. And so there does appear to be either a difference in view from the White House or maybe an intentional attempt at strategic ambiguity. Either way, it sends the wrong message to the Chinese, who believe we're not prepared to defend that nation with American soldiers if and when it comes to that.
Do you think Americans would unite behind supporting Taiwan in an invasion by China, or would that be a highly polarizing issue?
I think it would definitely require some debate in our country. But the question is, what does the White House do and where is the president? The president can lead the nation into whatever situation overseas he or she chooses to do so. But they've got to come to the nation and explain why they're going to take that action and why they want the American people's support. The challenge here, and the challenge for the last decade and a half, has been our presidents have not really been willing to go to the American people and seek that support. They've gotten in conflicts overseas at times, but they've never really had their heart in it. And that's in part why I think the American people sense that they need not support these things, is because the presidents, at least 3 presidents in a row of both parties, have not been ready to put American troops on the ground to really fight these battles in a way that they're forward-leaning. And that's been a challenge, I think, for our nation.
Very last question in just about 20 seconds. I do want to make the note the Department of Defense is saying the general's comments are not representative of the department's views on China. How unprecedented and how seriously should we take it that this one general, this high-ranking general, felt the need to issue this memo to his troops?
Well, he clearly has the view that, that the story is not being told within the department, and is willing to step outside the lanes and make that point. It's not surprising the Defense Department has walked it back, but General Minahan's made his point, and I think it's one that a lot of us need to hear.
All right. Former State Department, or rather Jamil Jaffer, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Natasha.